and I am testing. If you're tuning into a recording of this, I'm about to sneeze. Give me one moment. I'm just checking to see if the audio is working. Then I'm going to switch this from unlisted to public. As once again, about to sneeze. Phew, there we go. Here to chat about Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry? Positive, negative, neutral? I hope you guys will let me know. Like I said, let's just give it a couple minutes to see if the audio is working. And then we are going to switch it. And it is working. All right. We're going to public. Thank you guys for being here. Please take a moment, as always, to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's chat about Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear them. And yesterday, we talked about President James Monroe, who has been in the news as of late, thanks to President Donald Trump and the Monroe Doctrine, which I guess now is being called the Dunroe Doctrine. Or I guess that's what Donald Trump called it. I don't know. I think it's just Dunroe as in Donald Trump. For a while, I thought he meant the Monroe Doctrine was done. I don't know. The point is, James Monroe and the Dunroe Doctrine, or Monroe Doctrine, excuse me, made its way into the news. James Monroe was actually the second president ever to also be a Freemason. The first president, of course, being George Washington, brother George Washington. So that was a cool little thing. Interesting thing I learned is actually John Quincy Adams, who was the vice president to Monroe, if I recall correctly, was actually very anti-Masonic. So there's interesting kind of connections in there when it comes to or not connections, but lessons about Freemasonry. When you saw, for example, George Washington and James Monroe actually being, oppositions when it came to, or in opposition when it came to the government, or James Monroe was very much opposed to the government of George Washington, or was a critic of it, yet it did not stop George Washington, brother Washington, from appointing brother James Monroe the minister to France. And in the same way, John Quincy Adams was very much opposed to Freemasonry. James Monroe was a very active Freemason, to my knowledge, and yet it did not stop James Monroe from making John Quincy Adams his vice president, if I recall correctly, or at least part of his government. The point being, within Freemasonry, we are taught tolerance, respect, even for those with whom we disagree, and even for those, or towards those, who disagree with us. Yes, I got a big nose, Himothy. Please hit like and subscribe. Mac and cheese is great. So is hitting the like and subscribe button. I've grown to accept I have a big nose. I am a Freemason. I've been a Freemason since 2007. I'm very proud of it. If I did Ronin, would it make a difference or not? I think the better question is, are you a subscriber to the podcast? Thank you, How to Spell. Absolutely. Congratulations, How to Spell Mark, on being live right now. I really appreciate it that you're here, taking a few moments to show me some love and support. Everybody should also check out How to Spell Mark's channel and support him as well. Being a streamer is not the easiest thing in the world. I'm not saying it's rocket surgery or brain science, if you will, but it is a challenge. So I had this coach who used to always say, it's not rocket surgery, and I always liked that line. So my head got stretched horizontally because I'm awesome. Please hit like and subscribe. Pancake, well, I'm not trying to brainwash anybody. You eat whatever you want, but just hit the like and subscribe button. That's what I'd ask you to do. And thank you for being here. We're going to give it some time. Any thoughts people have on Freemasonry? Positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to hear it. And thank you, everybody who's joined so far. I got a long head. I got a big nose. I got a gap in my teeth. But I'm here rocking out my life. So Well, Freemasonry is real. I might be a dork, but the two are not mutually exclusive. I can be both a dork and a Freemason. Um, I would be a dork whether I was a Freemason or not. What is a kippa? I'm not sure what that is, so I do not know to what you are referring. Bam. Well, if you have any questions, Bam Maya Dog, Bam Aya Dog, let me know and I'll do my best to at least try to answer your questions. Again, I've been a Freemason since 2007. I don't know everything about Freemasonry, but I can at least provide you with my experiences and my knowledge. So Carol Baskins is my hero. I don't know who Carol Baskins is. I hope that Carol Baskins is a worthy hero. I have no idea who that is. There is no such thing as a Freemason church. Freemasonry is not a religion, so there are no Masonic churches. Freemasonry is a civic or community club. XXYYXX. I am trying to turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession by creating content that promotes the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it was or is located. Um, how do you become a Freemason? To be one, ask one. Find a Masonic lodge in your area and approach them and express your interest in joining and then go through the process. Ronan, well, I can just use my own words. Ronan, Freemasonry is a civic or community group and organization based around the human desire for fellowship and the human desire to be part of something greater than oneself. Um, well, I mean, Freemasonry used to be a builders or a builders organization, right? It was originally stone Masonic guilds from the Middle Ages, and it grew into Freemasonry. And definitely there have been many soldiers throughout history who have been Freemasons. Less so now, but that's because there are less members overall. And so when the numbers drop across the board, you see not just less soldier Freemasons, but you see less plumbers, less CEO Freemasons, less everything Freemason. But certainly throughout history, Freemasonry was quite popular amongst soldiers and within the British Empire and around the world, for that matter. But at the start, when Freemasonry was first spreading, it absolutely was spreading primarily through military encampments. I try to talk like a human because I am a human, but I don't know if I always succeed. No, well, I'm just going to call you Bend. No, they will not. Anybody who tells you that joining Freemasonry will make you rich, or famous or influential, or you'll get political power is full of baloney. At best, they're lying. At best, they're wrong. At worst, they're trying to scam you. But either way, you need to keep in mind that's not what Freemasonry is all about. It will not make you rich or famous. Um, so this whole thing about Austria, I'm pretty sure there is Freemasonry in Austria, and in Europe. You're right, though, Ronan. Freemasonry was banned by Nazis, and under Nazi rule in Germany, and when it went to France, Austria, whatever it might be, Freemasonry was banned. One of the consequences of that is for many people, Freemasonry became much smaller. It also, a lot of Masons became very nervous about discussing their Masonic connections for obvious reasons. You don't want to get on the wrong side of the government. But I believe there is Freemasonry present in Austria. I don't know what the size of it is. There's Freemasonry in Europe. There's Freemasonry in Germany. There's Freemasonry in France and Spain and Portugal. There you go. As Pitbull says, KY Pitbull. I mean, I'm sorry they're poor as hell. That sucks. Most Freemasons, in my experience, are neither very poor or very rich. They tend to be middle class, in my experience, or sometimes even lower middle class, more so than anything else. But it varies. I've known some Masons who are really struggling financially and some who are well off, and most in between. Um, Satan is very evil. Well, luckily, Freemasons do not worship Satan, despite what the conspiracy theories may say. So, Ronan, on our side, yes. I've known many Catholic Freemasons. Freemasonry has no issue with Catholicism or Catholics. You need to believe in a supreme being to be a Freemason. However, that can be Catholic, Protestant, or any other type of, religious understanding. Now, the Catholic Church has said that if members join who are, Catholic, if you're a Catholic and you join the Freemasons, to my understanding, the present rule is you're not allowed to take communion. But that's a rule from the Catholic Church, not from us. And I've known many Catholic Freemasons. Once again, don't call me pastor. I'm not a pastor. Um, I did BAM, not the entirety of the English police. It's the Metropolitan Police Force out of London, which is actually, in fairness, the highest or the most, that has the biggest number. It's the largest police group, the Metropolitan Police. And they don't have to make their membership public. They have to disclose their membership to their superior officers. But yes, I heard about that. Communion. Well, I mean, Will Gaming, to be a Freemason, you need to be at least, in the States, at least 18. In Canada, at least 21. You need to be an adult. Freemasonry is for adults. There's youth groups for Masons, like DeMolay, etc., but to be an actual Mason itself, you need to be at least 18 or 21 years of age. Thank you. Keeps nice and aerodynamic. Tony, I mean, those are political questions. Freemasonry is not political for whatever it's worth, but I do understand there's a lot of, shall we say, I'm sorry about that, shall we say, political questions in England right now, none of which I can speak on because I know very kind of little about it. I wouldn't say most are not gooey. In my experience, most Freemasons are not wealthy. Most Freemasons are not poor either. Most are kind of in the middle as a general rule. Usually, at least in my experience, anybody who tells you that becoming a Freemason will make you rich or famous or influential or politically important is full of baloney. So it's not the case. The two wives thing is, I guess if it's allowed in the country, then so be it. But otherwise, we as Freemasons are taught, one of the things we're taught is to obey the laws of the country in which we, either live or work or are traveling through. So in Canada, certainly having two wives is illegal, so you can't do that. I believe it is. He was a Freemason, and he started the Mormon Church. Yes, I look like a Neanderthal spirit. Goy, well, that's unkind. I mean, I may or may not be Jewish. I don't say. I'm not stupid. I don't think. I could be wrong, in fairness. I could be wrong. So that's a rule everywhere, KY Pitbull. That's one of the standards that you need to have to be recognized as a regular lodge. No discussion of politics or religion in lodge. Now, when you're outside of lodge, so be it. People talk politics and religion all the time. But within lodge, there's no discussion. I think it's one of the greatest things about Freemasonry is the universal tolerance that it promotes. You sitting next to somebody, it doesn't matter what his religion is, what his politics are, or her for that matter, what their beliefs are, what they do for work, what their age is, how much money is in their bank account. What matters is, can you work together in brotherly love for the good of the lodge? I am a Freemason, Josh. Hello, Dad. John Holmes says, read this if you're gay. Well, I read it, so there you go. TJ, a fan, which country in Europe would you like to visit? I visited England and Scotland this year. I don't know. I mean, Morocco's in Africa, but it's close to Europe. If I had to pick a country in Europe, oh my gosh, there's so many I'd love to visit. I'll have to get back to that. I mean, I suppose I want to go back to England because my family connections there. I know it was so much fun the last time I was there. Although Ireland, I think, would be on the list as well. So that's interesting. Doherty. I would think that would not be the case, the idea of needing to be Catholic to join a Masonic club, because the Catholic Church is actually opposed officially to Freemasonry, despite the fact that Freemasons have no issue with the Catholic Church. It's from their side to ours. Yes, Sir Adam Kinowski. We have Masons of all different races, ethnicities, creeds, black, white, Asian, European, First Nations, South Americans, whatever it might be. So yes, I've sat in lodge with many black people and everything in between. Um, so the so Will Gaming, the idea of being a not having a criminal history, that's not always the case. Some jurisdictions it is that you can't have any criminal record. Others, it depends on the nature of the crime. Don't prejudge. What the first step is, and you know what they say, well done is, or well begun is half done. Just contact the Masonic Lodge, express your interest in joining, be honest with them if you do have a criminal record, or for that matter, any other problems in your life, and you just go from there. Josh asked me favorite black person. Well, probably, I mean, my friend, I haven't seen him forever because he moved and I miss him a lot, but my good friend Abdul, I knew him and he was a really cool dude. He was a good friend of mine, so miss that guy. He moved back to Africa years ago. Catholicism may condemn Freemasonry, but Freemasonry welcomes Catholics. I've sat with many Catholic members. It's great. Well, Ronan, I appreciate the tip about not mentioning I'm a Freemason in Ireland. However, I don't think if I was in Ireland I would accept that tip, even though I appreciate it. I know that you're coming from a good place or a place of concern. I was actually recently in Dubai. When I say recently, it was in June, so 6 months ago. And Freemasonry is actually illegal in Dubai. And I was debating whether I should, while I'm there, wear my Masonic pins, have my Masonic dues cards with me. It was especially nerve-wracking because Sir Adam, females can join. They can join the Order of Women Freemasons, Co-Masonry, or Eastern Star. So, anyways, I even have a Masonic dues card from Israel. And that was at the time when the Iran-Israel conflict took place, or the Israeli, I guess, bombing of Iran. I forget what it was. Whatever it was, there's a lot of stuff in the Middle East happening, combined with the fact that I'm a Freemason and I'm a member of a lodge in Israel. I was debating whether to wear my Masonic pins and, I have a Masonic patch on the back of my wheelchair. Anyways, I wore it. Nothing happened. I think it's one of those things where people are going to judge you however they want to judge you. It's fine. I'm proud to be a Freemason, and what that means is I have to be proud to be a Freemason, even in places where it is frowned upon. Um, some countries do prefer Knights of Columbus over Freemasonry, although there was a time when both Knights and Freemasons were both growing at about the same rate. So, Robbie Teasdale, we don't take too kindly. Well, I'm a very friendly person, so I suspect the Irish are quite friendly, and I will be okay. No, Gooey. I mean, I've met Irish people. They're not mostly drunks and smoking. They're good people, at least I mean, all people. You take people one at a time. But yeah, I've known Irish people. They tend not to fall into the stereotypes, with the exception of one of my favorite movies is Leprechaun. In fact, I love the whole Leprechaun series. So I choose to believe that that is the best representation of. I choose to believe that that is the best representation of Irish culture is the Leprechaun movies. Um, well, some do, some don't. KY Pitbull. I mean, it's fine. Everybody can decide for themselves. There are some Masons who choose to be, for lack of a better term, very quiet about being a Freemason, and they don't like to talk about it or discuss it with others, which is perfectly fine. There are others who advertise it, talk about it, not advertise it in the sense of go around yelling in people's faces, I'm a Freemason, but they don't mind discussing it with others and, letting people know that they are a Freemason. I am not from the UK, but my dad is from the UK. He's from Northern England. Michael Collins, I'll check it out. NM_fish guy. By the way, hit that like and subscribe button. Sounds like you are a Christian, which is awesome. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the chat. There are many Christian Freemasons. Freemasonry is not a religion, though. Keep that in mind. All right, we're going to give it a bit of time. We're going to wait to see who joins. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button, and thank you all for being here. What is up, Danny Bennett? I hope you're doing well. Well, Jim, let's put you in a bit of a timeout for a little bit. There we go. No worries, NM Fish Guy. I think NM_Fish Guy, you might be new to the stream. Let me know how you found it and if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. Well, I mean, the Masons, obviously. Not that I know anything about the Skull and Bones, but I'm going to go with Masons, of course, because got to rep. Got to rep for the brand. We do not harvest the blood of anything. The Bible, the Freemasons do not harvest the blood of babies nor of anything else. I mean, what I will say again, we're talking about Freemasonry. Freemasonry welcomes men of all different, not just faith, religions, but we have gay members, straight members, etc., etc. So, I'm actually, that's the best way to ask that question, because most people just ask what level or rank am I, which shows a misunderstanding of Freemasonry. I am a 3rd degree Master Mason, which is the highest degree within Freemasonry. I am also a 18th degree Scottish Rite and a worshipful Master Border City Lodge 554. Well, thank you, NM Fish Guy. I really do appreciate that, and I appreciate you being on live stream. So, do you have your own channel, or do you comment on other people's channels? Hello, Linking Atlas. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I never discuss the ceremonies of Freemasonry, curbing stomp, and neither should you. If you're a true Freemason, you would understand that. Well, there's no hate for anyone here, of any sort. So NM Fish Guy, very cool. How's it going? Do you live stream? Do you post videos? What type of stuff do you do on your channel? Everybody who's watching this, take a moment, go to NM_Fish Guy 7 and subscribe to his stuff. I don't know anything about it. This isn't an endorsement or not endorsement. This is an endorsement of, I know how hard it is to be a live streamer, and I know the passion it takes to stream regularly. So whatever you're talking about, I respect the passion, respect the hustle. So good for you, NM Fish Guy, 48 subs. Hey, we all start with 0 and we work our way up. So like I said, I don't know what he's talking about, but I know it's tough to be a streamer. So I respect anybody who streams, especially if you're streaming regularly. I'm not saying it's, rocket surgery. You're not saving people's lives, but you are trying to do something that's difficult. Building an audience on YouTube is not the easiest thing in the world. So, Harry Hawk, welcome back. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen you. Nice. I love fish keeping. So, Harry Hawk, so there's 3 reasons why I don't talk about the Masonic ceremonies. The first is because if I talk about them, it limits the fraternal bond between Masons of different generations, right? What happens is, what bonds Freemasons together is our common rituals and our common ceremonies. And if I start to share those ceremonies and those rituals with people outside of Freemasonry, it limits or reduces the bond of brotherhood. It's the same way if you have a family recipe that gets passed down from previous to present to future generations of the family. You're not going to put that family recipe online, not because there's anything nefarious about the recipe, but because maintaining the privacy of that family recipe is the way to maintain the bonds between past, present, and future generations of the family. We in Freemasonry pass down our ritual. The other two reasons either by sharing the rituals, I'll be providing spoilers, which could make your Masonic initiation or ceremonies less meaningful. Just like going to see a movie, if it's been spoiled for you, you're not going to enjoy it as much. And the other thing is, you need to keep in mind, Freemasonry is not the same everywhere. What that means is, and this is really important to keep in mind, like if I share the Masonic rituals and ceremonies that I went through, even though there's commonalities, they're not the same as what you find in, let's say, Texas, Mexico, whatever it is. Because of that, if I share it and somebody joins in a different jurisdiction and there's a different ritual, they're not gonna be present because the whole time they're gonna be thinking about what they expect to happen instead of focusing on what is actually happening. And within Freemasonry, within life, one of the greatest skills that you can have is the ability to be present. If you're not present, you are honestly, I know how it sounds, but it's true. You are honestly missing out on so much within a Masonic ritual. You need to be present. You need to be paying attention. You need to watch what's happening and what's going on. The only way to do that is to not go in with any preconceived expectations. One of my favorite quotes from back in the day is happiness equals reality minus expectations. If you're expecting stuff instead of just accepting stuff, it's going to be a very different life that you live. Thank you, Harry Hawk. Father_Fred, welcome. Hello, Courtney. I hope things are going well for you in Texas. I hope you're having a great day and a great 2026. And I mean, I always say, like, look, at the end of the day, there's far more that connects Masonic ritual to that which separates it, but there are differences. And the beautiful thing about Freemasonry is you can travel to a different jurisdiction, see a completely different ritual, but still understand what's happening and have a frame of reference on which you can kind of judge, or not even judge, but understand. Like, one of my favorite stories, I've given this before, is I was recently in a Masonic Lodge in Colombia. Beautiful, beautiful lodge, beautiful people, beautiful place. And I went to a third degree, and the third degree was entirely in Spanish. So I didn't understand a single word, but I understood every word, if that makes any sense. I knew what was happening, and it was really cool. So it's a common base of experiences on top of which rests, jurisdictional differences, which add, as KY Pitbull says, adds a great deal of uniqueness and enjoyment and, flavor to the craft, if that's the right term. On top of that is the individual or personal interpretation. Very slow is okay sometimes, Courtney. Very slow is okay. You don't have to rush anything. You don't have to rush anything. Josh, thoughts on Austrian painter? If you're talking about Hitler, I think he was a monster. And I have no problem at all saying I think he was a monster. I understand online there are a lot of people who, for some reason, I don't understand, seem to be supportive of him. I don't know why. He seems like a terrible human being. But I don't know. People believe some dumb stuff. Which state? Texas, California? I'm trying to think which states have. I'm trying to think of which states have Texas or have Spanish speaking lodges. I can think of Texas, I believe, has a couple. I know that California has a couple for sure. I'm well aware of that. All right, well, let's not have Nazis on the chat if we can help it for the time being. Kentucky. I've been to Kentucky. I've never been, I guess KY, that makes sense. I've never been to any Spanish speaking lodges in Kentucky, but I have been to Kentucky. One of my favorite Masonic rituals I ever saw was a barn raising in Paducah, Kentucky, a third degree in a barn. I remember as the degree was going on, it started raining, and hearing the rain off of the tin roof was really, really cool. User, I have no clue how people jumping creates electricity, but North Korea is not a place I would like to visit. Chai X, hello. Please hit like and subscribe. Your lodge is Spanish speaking? That's awesome, KY. I really got to get back to Kentucky. It was a beautiful state. Wonderful people, beautiful state. It was awesome. Oh, so did I meet you there? Is that where I met you? Do you recognize my face? Because when I did the barn degree, what year was it? Let me double check. I got it on Facebook and in my Masonic journal, but Facebook would be quicker to check. I think I was there for that then. Hold on one second. I must have been. Hold on one sec. Let's see. I think it was KY. So I guess I must have asked you to subscribe while I was there. It must be. That's really cool that you're here then, KY. Thank you for being here. I had a really, really, really wonderful time when I was there. It was really, really incredible. It was October 3rd, 2021. I interviewed Worship Brother Don Kelsey Plainseed. Actually, hold on just 1 second, KY. Let me see if I've got it here. Gotta do a better job organizing all my pins and coins and stuff. Where is it? These are all my Masonic pins and coins, and mostly Masonic pins and coins. This is from blood donation, but oh yeah, here it is. This is the where was it? This is the pin I got from the barn raising. I don't know if you can see that well. Barn degree. If you were there, that is really cool. That is genuinely. Have you done it since? But that is genuinely, KY, one of my fondest Masonic memories. Okay, so I was there for your third degree. That is awesome. I must have met you while I was there then and asked you to subscribe. If you're, double check, see if you're not subscribed and if you can resubscribe. That is really cool, KY. Thank you for being here. I've talked about that before. It genuinely was, like, when I think of my fondest memories, that one is up there. Part of it was just Paducah was a really cool small town. And then, Brother Don Kelsey was really cool. I interviewed him. And the barn raising was really awesome as well. Just seeing something different. And okay, so it was 1 year before. Maybe were you there for part of it? Because I know obviously you can't stay for the whole degree, but were you there the same way I was there? Like the same time I was there for the dinner or the food? Either way, that's really awesome. Good to have a brother here from Paducah, Kentucky, from the barn raising. Paducah is a cool little town, so get the chance to check it out. Oh yeah, Kelsey is a great brother. So he was really good to me too. He picked me up from the bus station in Paducah, which if you've never been there, is a little tiny a little tiny, what's the word? It's a little tiny shack basically on the edge of town. The bus got in at like 6 in the morning or something crazy. Took me out for dinner at Cracker Barrel. He's a really cool dude. Well, KY, I hope that you will, like I said, maybe share the stream, say hi to Don for me. Um, yeah, I don't even know if anybody works there. It was every time I went there, it was locked. It's funny. I remember I took the bus into Paducah, Kentucky. So I'm waiting for the bus to come. This is during COVID, mind you. But Kentucky was a little bit more lax on the rules, let's say, than other places about masks and such. So the bus arrives in Paducah. Everybody gets out for like a smoke break. It is packed, packed, packed. Turns out there had been, I guess, a lady of the night riding on the bus, going from wherever it was to Paducah, trying to garner up business on the bus itself. I'll remember that for the rest of my life. I didn't get a chance to meet her, sadly. Maybe I would have had some fun if I did, but she left in Paducah. I guess she was not able to find any willing customers to get her a hotel or whatever it is in Paducah, Kentucky. But apparently she was searching for business while on the bus. At least that's what I heard when I got on the bus. It was yeah, I remember that. Well, I didn't talk to her. Because everybody was talking about it they all got off in Paducah. There was like a 15-minute smoke break. And then this lady gets off the bus and a couple guys like hollered at her or whatever it is. And then she just went to, I didn't even know where she went. She just walked off into the night. But as I was getting my stuff all packed away, people were talking about it. And what they were saying is, I didn't see it firsthand again. What they were saying is she had been kind of going from like empty seat to empty seat. If there was a guy sitting, next to an empty seat and trying to rustle up some business. I don't understand the logic of it. Like, what was the plan? Is they get off with her in Paducah and take her to a hotel? I couldn't quite figure out what the plan was, but yeah, I remember that. I remember, one of my Israel did not do 9/11 based Saxon. That is foolish. You based Saxon are a foolish, stupid person. But thank you for being here nonetheless. Jeffrey Bam. Well, I try to be comfortable, but if I don't succeed, then I'm very sorry. No, they did not. I remember going to, it's funny because I don't even remember where I was before Paducah, but I was some other small town for something Masonic, I'm sure. And I had to catch the bus to Paducah. And the bus stopped in, hello, Terrifier. The bus stopped in like a truck stop. And it was this truck stop. It was in the middle of nowhere. It was one of those, it almost looked like an oasis, right? But it was this truck stop in the middle of nowhere that I'm waiting at. And it's basically a line of like places for people to get gas. And this little corner store, and next to it was this little coffee shop, diner place. And this was still, I don't know if it was legal or illegal or what the rules were, but people were still smoking in this diner. This was in 2021, it would have been. So I used to smoke at the time. I don't really smoke anymore. I haven't smoked for years, but I used to have the occasional cigarette. So I ordered a cup of black coffee because I love coffee, and I'm smoking a cigarette. And a couple booths down from me, there was some drifter who was just like, I guess, I don't know where he was going, but he didn't look like he had a home. He just looked like he drifted. I think he said he was hitchhiking. And then speaking of ladies of the night, there was a couple ladies of the night. I think they were ladies of the night. I did not ask them, but sitting on some corner booth, probably taking a break. But I'm sitting there drinking my coffee and, smoking my cigarette, getting ready to go to Paducah, Kentucky. I remember thinking, like, this is a pretty great life. If I could, I'd spend my whole life that way. I remember thinking it was pretty awesome. There's a song called "Home Sweet Highway" by Ashley McBride, which always makes me. Whenever I hear that song, I think about that moment, and sometimes think about what happened to that drifter fella, or those ladies, or even the waitress at the truck stop. Um, so based, what I can say is you seem to be. I believe that you are using criticisms of Israel as a cover for being anti-Semitic. I'm actually a member of an Israeli lodge and proud of it. You don't have to like the government of Israel, that's fine, but Jewish people are no different than any other type of person. They're great people, and Israel did not do 9/11. I'm very confident in saying that. Thank you, Ronan. I appreciate that. I mean, and Ronan, what I'll say is, I always, in some ways, I'm even happier to have non-Masons or non-Masonic types in the chat, because you don't have to be a Mason to find Freemasonry interesting. At least that's my hope, right? I think, unfortunately, very often we have this tendency to imagine that, in order to enjoy Freemasonry or enjoy talking about Freemasonry, you must first be a Freemason. And that's not the case, or even be a Masonic type. There's a lot of interest and relevance within Freemasonry for non-Masons. So keep that in mind. Speaking of coffee, be right back. KY Pitbull, enjoy your coffee. I love coffee, so. Based, I think you're wrong about everything, but please hit the like and subscribe button nonetheless. So my assumption, KY, is my assumption is she went back and forth between, like, I didn't, I don't know where she got on, because this was when I was leaving Paducah, so I never saw her where she got on. My assumption is she did like a loop, right? And it's probably pretty cheap to stay in a hotel in Paducah, Kentucky. At least my hotel was pretty cheap. So it's probably like she sees whatever guys she can pick up on the way to Paducah, maybe some guys stopping there, and then she goes back the next day to probably a truck stop, and then restarted the whole process. I promote everybody. I would love, again, I really want to visit Masonic lodges in Australia. It's on my list. It's just getting to Australia is very expensive. A little bit too much of a pain in the butt, because it's like 14, 15-hour flights, and that's 14 or 15 hours I could be streaming. So I'm doing my best, DMD Med. I'm doing my best. So no user, I've never heard of any Masonic lodges drug testing anybody before they become a Freemason. Honestly, I'm one who actually, I'm a believer that we should be asking for more, for lack of a better term, official documents before we admit Masons. Like, I think we need to be bringing in criminal record checks as a rule, as well as credit checks and health checks. But even me, I wouldn't go so far as, I don't think we should have drug testing, but I do think we should ask people about their medical issues that may affect their being a Freemason. Like, for example, I always give this as an example. If you, let's say you have a medical issue that it's very hard for you to sit for long periods of time. I mean, sometimes a meeting can be as short as 30 minutes. Sometimes a meeting can go as long as like 2-3 hours. If you do have issues sitting for a long period of time, knowing that in advance in the lodge, especially from the worshipful master, the worship master can just mention to you, hey, if you have to stand up at any point, go ahead. If you need to stretch, go ahead. You can maybe have him sit somewhere that's a little bit off to the side. So if he does have to stand up, he's not blocking anybody's view. Knowing as much as you can about an applicant is probably a good idea. Not as high as yours, Mr. Keeps. Not as high as yours, I'm sure. But it's decent. It's decent. It's not great. It's decent. Yeah, Mr. Keeps, I'm lucky. One thing I've never had is hypochondria, as somebody who, wheels around all day, gets dirty hands, whatever it is. So far, I managed to avoid that. I don't know. There's something about the freedom of it I really loved. And again, that song "Home Sweet Highway." Um, freedom is a Greyhound bus, I suppose. Yeah, well, credit score. It's funny. A lot of people would say, "What's the point?" Even Masons would ask, "What's the point?" I mean, most Masonic lodges do not spend. It's not that expensive to be a Freemason. Like I said, the cheapest I've ever, dues I pay are $40 American per year. The most expensive is around 175 to 250. Um, so it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're struggling financially, that may be even too much. And I've known brothers who fall on hard times and couldn't even afford the 150 Canadian, so about 130 American, in various years. You don't want anybody joining if it's going to put financial pressure on them and they can't afford it. And there are some people I've known who have joined at a time when they weren't financially ready for it. Even that little amount was too much for them. And then it causes stress on their lives down the line. And also, I think it demonstrates a level of trustworthiness, right? If you can be trusted just genuinely with your money, you can be probably more trusted with, for example, Masonic secrets. A lot of people, though, I think almost every Mason would disagree with the credit score. So I think probably 60% of Masons would agree that it's valuable to get a criminal record check. I would say 30% would agree with the medical stuff. I think almost no one would agree with the credit score. I'm one of the few who would say that's worth considering. But keep in mind, I don't believe anything should be automatically exclusionary, right? So what I mean by that is, let's say you have a credit rating of 400. That doesn't mean you're automatically excluded from the lodge. What that should be, though, is it gives let's say, the investigation committee who's talking to you, it's something for them to talk to you about. We see your credit score is kind of low. Are you going to be able to afford these yearly dues? Is this going to put more financial burdens on you? How will you deal with those financial burdens? Because you don't want to do anything that's going to cause any more stress. Same thing with medical. Oh, we understand that your doctor says you can't sit for long periods of time. Just so you know, we have some meetings that go 2, 3, 4 hours. Here is, you can sit in a corner, you can sit somewhere kind of a little bit off to the side. Feel free to stand up at any point and stretch. We won't draw attention to it. It says here that you are at risk of heart attack. Just so you know, we have a brother with first aid. If anything happens, we'll call 911, but hopefully, we have first aid training on site. Even with criminal records, we see you did this crime, you have this record from 20 years ago. We're not going to automatically exclude you, but we do want to know, what you've learned from this situation, the steps you've taken to grow, to change. Have you looked at possibly, did you serve time? It's about knowing as much as you can, but nothing should be an automatic exclusion. Um, where in Canada is the lodges? They're everywhere, Shaw's. They're everywhere. I mean, throughout Canada. Obviously, the more densely populated an area is, the more lodges you see. Awesome. I hope you enjoy Buddhism. So KY again, I fully realize, and by the way, I talk exclusively for myself. These are my opinions. I realize I'm fully the exception when I talk about, wanting to have criminal record checks plus credit checks plus health checks. But again, I believe all that stuff is important and all that stuff matters. Even with the medical stuff, like I talk about this a lot. I actually did this in my lodge once as I'm worshipful master of my lodge. KY. I did this as a test. I asked brethren, I said, okay, I let's imagine that right now I suffer a stroke in lodge and I can no longer communicate. Right? I can no longer communicate with anybody. I can't talk. Maybe I'm conscious, maybe I'm not, but I've had a stroke. And I asked the brethren, okay, what would you do? And somebody said, well, we'd call 911. I said, okay, In the meantime, does anybody have first aid? And would anybody have first aid and know, how to deal with the situation while waiting for the um, first responders? And by the way, it could be a stroke, it could be a heart attack, it could be anything. I basically can't communicate, right? And they said nobody except for me, and I'm the one suffering the emergency, had first aid. So right there, we recognize there's a problem, right? Um, because it could take 5 minutes, it could take 50 minutes. We don't know what's happening, right? To get the first aid there. But then I asked them, okay, does anybody know after I go to the hospital who to call, right? Who would you call as my emergency contact? Nobody knew. Um, so right there, again, are there people worried about me? Do I have a wife and kids at home? Want to know where I've been? Does anybody have the phone number to contact them? They may know who they are. They may have met them, but do they know the phone number? Then I asked, does anybody know if I'm taking any medications? Will, that the paramedic should know about? Does anybody know about any medical conditions I have that the paramedic should know about? And again, nobody knew. So what I did is, for me personally, I have on my phone and in my wallet a list of my medical conditions, my medications, the fact that I'm an organ donor, and my emergency contact information, right? And what I said is, this is where I keep my stuff. I asked the secretary to write down where I keep my medical information. And that way I said, look, if I ever do have an emergency, you will know where to find the information that could be necessary for the first aid responders to help me. It's on my phone. You can access it without the password, and it's in my wallet. Um, and not every Mason needs to know everything about you, but knowing the medical conditions that you're facing, the possible risks, and how to alleviate them, I think is actually really beneficial. So I didn't hear about the famous guy in Alaska, but yeah, I'm not one who believes even if somebody goes to jail, they should automatically be excluded from. Well, let me rephrase. I actually do believe that if you are a Freemason and you commit a crime while being a Freemason, it should be an automatic suspension. But I think you should be able to reapply and rejoin if you served your time and demonstrated that have learned a lesson from the situation. If you committed a crime before you were a Freemason, I don't think Freemasonry can automatically hold that against you. I think rather you need to take a few moments to explain during the application process what happened, how you've changed, how you've grown, etc., etc. I do have an egghead. I'm going to accept that. Yes, KY. I mean, KY Pitbull, within Freemasonry, there is so much that needs to be considered when it comes to how we can best, like, esotericism is great. Knowing about the ritual is great. Knowing about, for example, how to um, the ancients and the moderns and who was Hiram Abiff, all that stuff is great. But there's so many practical things that sometimes get lost. Like KY, I've argued in the past that between the worshipful master, senior warden, junior warden, treasurer, and secretary, you should have within that group, either one or all of them should have first aid training. So like up to date, proper first aid training. So you know how to do, let's say, CPR, heaven forbid something happens. Should have psychological first aid training to know how to deal with a crisis situation. Somebody's going through a mental health crisis. They should have what would be known as smart serve or safe serve in Ontario, which is proper safety to serve alcohol. If you do have a lodge that includes alcohol, either at special events or just at meetings, how to safely serve it. You should have food handler certification to know how to safely serve food to your brethren. You should have how to make your buildings as accessible as possible. And you should have the contact information to your municipality, specifically building and administration. So, for example, If, let's say, around your Masonic building, the street lights go out, or there's a cracked sidewalk, or there's an issue with garbage pickup, you have the ability to contact and let them know, and insurance information, because you're technically would be a member of the building co-op usually, or a member of the lodge as an officer. So yeah, I know a lot of people disagree, but I think you should have all of those. I have all of those certifications, and I'm proud of it. Um, Yeah, KY. I know some brothers who do as well. I would disagree with that, but at the end of the day, who gets to decide is the Grand Master of the jurisdiction, right? It is really great to have you here, KY. Kentucky Pitbull. Again, I loved my time in Kentucky. I must have met you at some point, I'm guessing. I hope you'll consider sharing this stream with your brothers. And KY, if you send me an email, um, hold on just one second. Let me get it here. info@squareandcompass.ca. If you send me an email, I would love to send you back some things I wrote about the barn raising and just how much I enjoyed my time in Paducah. We're going to give it a bit more time. We're going to wait to see who joins. Please take a moment. If you are new to the stream, hit that like and subscribe button. Even consider doing a 99-cent super chat. It seems like a little bit, but even 99 cents helps big time in my goal of turning my passion for Freemasonry into a profession. So judges, lawyers, police, crown, that is not the case anywhere that it's 100%. In most places, it's probably less than 5%. I've been a Freemason for 20 years. I would say maybe 10%, less than that, 2% maybe, have been involved in law enforcement. I would include myself in that 2%. I don't know any judges who are Freemasons. Known a few lawyers, known a few police officers. But again, when I say a few, I mean very, very few. I'm sure I would as well. No, user, that is not true. Somebody's been watching too many conspiracy theory videos online. So I'm very sorry to disappoint. Well, I mean, very often that does happen where well, welcome back, Corey Cameron, from last year. Where from last year? Um, Thank you, Kentucky Pitbull. Let's see. So once again, it's info@squareandcompass.ca. I don't see it at the moment, but hopefully it comes in soon. So that's info@squareandcompass.ca. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, Corey. Well, I'm glad it's been removed. That is a good thing. that it's been removed, but I'm also sure I didn't get it yet. All right, well, let's give it a few minutes. I mean, what I would say is, it makes me happy at least that it's been removed. I hope the recovery went okay. I'm sure it can take a little while to get the recovery. What I would say is, actually, for some reason, it's not coming through. I don't know why. Let me, KY, are you on Instagram by any chance? Well, good for you as a good Canadian. I'm glad that you are able to still work. I'm sorry that you're still in pain. That sucks. But I hope that, it starts to feel better, and the pain goes away. But that's also, you're pretty tough, man. Like, I can only imagine how painful it might be to go through, to go through a recovery. See, mine is working. I'm not multiple streaming. So KY, you mentioned you're on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. Hold on just one sec. At Square Compass Essex. Hold on just one second. Now maybe I'll get it soon, but in the meantime, all right, let me see if I can find it here. Dun, dun, dun. Welcome, Belle. Thank you for being here. I just want to quickly provide my Facebook information. I'm sure it does, Chai. Well, it depends how big your lodge is, to be honest, or sorry, how big your town or city is. But if you want to find me on Facebook, this is it. It's Square Compass Essex. Let me put it down this way. Facebook/Square Compass Essex. You can find me that way. I'm doing well, Tara. How are you doing? Thank you for being here. So KY, please take a moment to contact me that way and follow me on Facebook if you get the chance. I would very much appreciate it. Hit the like button. In the meantime, if you're watching this for the first time, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you all so much for being here and hope everybody is doing well. Nice. What do you have in your tea, Corey? That's the question. What are you rocking out with the tea? For me, I have my coffee black as a general rule. But when it comes to tea, I love milk and honey with it. So I'm a black coffee drinker. With tea, it's milk and honey. I do got a big forehead sports. You should hit that like and subscribe button. For some reason, nothing is coming through right now. Well, we'll give it a few minutes. We'll see. Give it a bit of time. Well, there you go, Cameron. Am I your favorite enough to hit the like and subscribe button? That's the question. And would it make a difference if I was trans or not? Freemasonry does not discriminate, nor should it. Maybe, maybe not. Sports. Would it make a difference? Um, oh, so we got Smokey's, I guess, better half. Well, I was talking about just really chatting about anything. I don't have any specific topics right now because we have a brother on from Kentucky, and I have so many really fond memories of my time in Kentucky. I figured I would talk about that a little bit. It was a barn raising I went to. Um, but I am doing very well. The channel's going great. Thank you to everybody who's helped make this channel a success. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. Not just my channel, but my social media is growing as well. I figured you would, Chai. Again, not Freemasonry is not as ubiquitous as it once was, which means it's not everywhere. Oh, all right. I found you, KY Pitbull. Thank you so much for the message. The thing about Freemasonry, right? A lot of people don't realize is very much similar to, oh, that's not good. But the cigarette part, I will say, again, I haven't smoked for years. I smoked on and off. Um, I will say the best time I think to have a cigarette was first thing in the morning with with a cup of coffee. Right, that by far, coffee and a cigarette is the best. One of the lines in the song "Home Sweet Highway" was a what was it? Was a cup of truck stop coffee and a cigarette added to the list of things I ain't quit yet. Which I loved that line. And again, thinking back to my super fun time in at the random truck stop, drinking that cup of truck stop coffee and a cigarette definitely was a lot of fun and something I really enjoyed quite a bit. So, do I think there are police in? No, I don't. I mean, there are police in Freemasonry, but I don't know what you mean by police informants. Um, right? That's not something I understand in terms of like what that means. Um, so no, I do not believe that there are Freemason informants, right? There's Freemasons who are police officers, but there's nothing to inform upon. That would make no sense. That'd be like joining your local knitting club to be a police informant. Um, well, yes. I mean, and to my credit, for whatever it's worth, I guess I'll say, I guess I will say, I never smoked greatly, and because I was focusing so much on because I was focusing so much on my wrestling, I never really tried to, I always avoided smoking too much because again, I wanted the lung capacity. So certainly, smoking cigarettes is not a particularly helpful thing to being a professional wrestler. So never really did it much, but there were times when it was really fun. Again, coffee and cigarette goes pretty well together. Not nobody should smoke though. Nobody should smoke. And how many Freemasons smoke, Doherty? That's a good question. A lot less than they used to. I can tell you that. A lot less than they used to. Back in the day, back in the day, you could smoke in Masonic buildings, which is, I mean, I don't know about every jurisdiction, but in Ontario, that's crazy. And people were telling me stories, like some of the old timers were telling me stories about like, oh, they would travel to, they would come to a Masonic lodge, and it would just be like just so much smoke everywhere because everybody was smoking in the lodge. They actually had ashtrays on the seats, if you can believe that. So, a lot less. And honestly, I do always say, and I've argued this in the past, Freemasons have a responsibility to care for their health and their well-being, not just because it's good for them to do so, but because it's about other people as well. You have a responsibility as a Freemason to try to keep yourself in as good a health as possible so that you can better contribute to a community and to the lodge. If you're doing something that, let's say, makes you less physically fit, one of the consequences of that is you're less able to contribute to your lodge or your community because you're going to be spending more time dealing with health effects. So yeah, I don't think Masons should smoke, but it's a free country and many do, including myself once upon a time. So who am I to judge anybody? Um, oh yeah, back in the day, they used to smoke inside the building all the time. Um, Apparently, I mean, when I joined in 2007, it was already illegal in Ontario or in Canada to smoke inside a building, right? I remember when I was a kid going to restaurants and being asked, sit in smoking or non-smoking, which seems insane to me. The idea that because again, I think by the mid 90s, they got rid of smoking sections. But I can remember, like as a kid going to restaurants and being asked smoking or non-smoking. The idea of a restaurant having a smoking section seems insane to me now, even though I grew up with it. I think you may have, Nam. It's possible. I don't know. I mean, I never heard of the show. I never heard of the episode or the show FBI Files, but a lot of times shows like that will try to create sensation by picking different groups and targeting them for whatever reason. KY, yeah, I don't know if in Kentucky it's like I said, I remember smoking in the truck stop. I think going to in Kentucky, going to Paducah. So, well, I don't know what the rules are in Kentucky if that was because that was 2001. If it was just the truck stop didn't care, or if it was still legal to smoke inside of buildings. But I mean, I would be a proponent of no smoking inside a Masonic lodge or inside the building, I should say. You can't really smoke inside a Masonic lodge because a Masonic lodge is a group of people. 10. That's crazy. I started smoking when I was in my like mid 30s, like probably early 30s, to be honest. Um, are there Freemasons in Greenland? Oh yeah, there must be. I mean, I've never looked into it, but I'm sure there is. Yeah, well, my advice will always be don't smoke, but that's just my personal advice. But it seems like not such a great idea. What about Eskimo Free? I mean, there are Freemasons. I mean, Eskimos could be Freemasons, or Inuit is the term. There are Freemasons in like northern Canada and in the Inuit area. I forget what the most northern lodge in Canada is. I think it's in Yellowknife, if I recall correctly. Um, I mean, Freemasonry again does not discriminate based on one's ethnicity, religion, politics, skin color, language, whatever it might be. What I have done in the past is I've really tried to use Freemasonry or encourage people to think about thinking about Freemasonry, to think about it in terms of um, like the connection between Freemasons and First Nations or Indigenous peoples. Freemasonry actually was one of the few places where early on in life or early on, Freemasons could actually, or you could actually be, indigenous and join a civic or community group and not be discriminated against. Chief Tecumseh, the Oklahoma Indian Degree Team. It was wonderful to see so many Masons kind of welcome First Nations, including, I'm sure, the Inuit. Well, Gui, I mean, there are greedy people. Asians are not any more or less greedy than anybody else. Asians are welcome to be Freemasons. I've hung out with several, Asian. In fact, Freemasonry is actually going like gangbusters in the Philippines at the moment. So, I I do not know to what you're referring, but yeah, I mean, in the Philippines, in Japan, it's very popular. So Freemasonry is incredibly popular throughout much of Asia, and it's a good thing as well. Like nothing but respect to all of the Asian brethren who, in many cases, are keeping Freemasonry alive. Um, so do Freemasons require a criminal record check? Yes. To answer your boss's call, Corey. So most don't. Some do. Some lodges do. It doesn't go by Mason. It goes by Lodge or Grand Lodge. I personally think it should be, but sometimes it's required, sometimes it's not. It's not required here in Ontario, but lodges themselves can choose to request it. Um, Threshold, I don't understand. First of all, I don't understand why anybody would not be a subscriber to this channel. That's my first thing. Subscribe to the channel. Second, I don't know why anybody would talk negative about anything, um, or anyone. People are people. You shouldn't talk negatively about them regardless of their race or ethnicity. It's just a foolish thing to do. Oh, there's a user RD6. There are a ton of Masonic lodges in the Philippines. Freemasonry in the Philippines is huge, and it's growing like gangbusters there. I mean, they're lodges. They're no different than the lodges here in Canada. I mean, slightly different rituals, slightly different practices, but a valuable part of Freemasonry and the Masonic family. There's a couple in Manila. I mean, Manila has a beautiful Grand Lodge. Actually, the ANCOM, the Annual Communication, is taking place in Tagaytay in April 23rd to 26th, if I recall it correctly, which is going to be crazy. Um, I'm thinking about going there. It's really going to depend on my taxes, but I think I'm going to go there. I disagree. Well, threshold, I think you have some racism there, so you need to deal with that. So, Spoon, I'm from Canada. I think what you're referring to with the police is the Metropolitan Police decision to require Freemason to disclose to their supervisors if they're Masons. I'm actually a little bit the exception to this rule. I don't mind, because conflict of interest is real. It is something that has to be considered. I'm not opposed to requiring Freemasons to disclose that they are Freemasons, to their superior officers. My issue is it shouldn't be exclusive to Freemasons. In my opinion, um, if you are part of any group or organization that has over, let's say, 20,000 members nationally, whether it be Freemasons, Rotary, Elks, Moose, then you should have to disclose your affiliations to it, to try to deal with potential conflicts of interest. I mean, I don't know. Threshold moment. Um, so Jack the Ripper was probably not a Freemason. Most say it wasn't. That Jack the Ripper wasn't a Freemason. Nobody will ever know for sure, but the most recent evidence says he was not. I don't think he was. Well, Threshold, you don't have to want to be part of Freemasonry. This channel is me talking about Freemasonry and what I love about it, including its aspects of universal tolerance and kindness and respect. Um, you don't have to want to be a part of it. You also have to keep in mind that when I talk about Freemasonry, I'm giving you my perspective and my understanding of it. Um, but I'm not here to try to convince anybody to be part of Freemasonry. To the extent that I want to convince anybody to do anything, it's to subscribe to the channel. But they don't talk about um, Freemasonry is about universal tolerance. What that includes is um, being welcoming of different races, ethnicities, beliefs, politics. Um, well, I mean, you seem like a pretty terrible human being, threshold moment. I definitely wouldn't want to, I would definitely would not enjoy going out for a coffee with you. You seem like you would be a pretty terrible human being to be around, but I'm sure you have your own friends and, good for you. Hang out with them. Plus, you're on my stream. So, if you're on my stream, what does that say about you? Um, Definitely not a fan of Donald Trump personally, but that's me personally. Again, I know a lot of Masons who are fans of Trump. We within Freemasonry don't discuss politics in lodge. So you could be left, right, liberal, conservative. You could have voted for Kamala Harris, could have voted for Donald Trump. It's not about your political persuasion. So, Spoon, none of that is true. It's not a secret club because I'm here talking about it. So, if it was secret, why would I be talking about it on stream? And Freemasonry is not a get out of jail or get out of trouble free card. In fact, quite the opposite. It gives you more responsibilities and a greater responsibility to the community and to one another. And in fact, within Freemasonry, we are always taught right away that amongst other things, if we find out a brother is committing a criminal offense, um, that we are to inform the police immediately. Because if we find out one of our brothers is committing a criminal offense and we choose not to do anything about it, not to tell anyone about it, um, we will bring the whole of the craft into disrepute. So, Spoon, you are incorrect, but please hit like and subscribe. Quota, not a fan of Trump myself, but that's me. Please hit like and subscribe as well. Um, well, why would I want to meet you in person? Um, oh, Pitbull. Why would anybody want to meet you in person? Threshold moment. I think I'm going to put you in timeout. Because you seem like a weirdly cranky dude. I'm sure you got friends, but I would not want to be one of them. Yeah, Threshold Moment seems like not a very good person. Um, well, Calroy, it's not a group of rats. So what ratting and I did work in jails and I did work in a few different spots. So Calroy, ratting is you and I agree to commit a crime together. And then when we're caught, I rat you out. And honestly, I'm not a big believer in that. I think that's, in a sense, betrayal. I think if, you should both go down together if you're going to agree to commit crimes together. But within Freemasonry, you are taught right away that if you commit a crime, we're not going to protect you, nor should we. So that's not ratting. That's because you're being honest and upfront with somebody as to what they're joining and why they're joining it. And we have a responsibility we are citizens first and community members first. Now, if I were to lie to you and say, join Freemasonry and you can commit crimes and we won't tell anybody, and then ratted you out, that would be different. But we are honest and upfront with people, as we should be, and let them know we're not going to, we don't keep as secret criminal acts, nor should we. I will take Vin Diesel's brother. Because Rakshini, most people say I'm really ugly on this stream. They say I have a big nose and a gap in my teeth and a big forehead. So I will take a nice statement like that. Please hit like and subscribe. Um, are you so that seems crazy. I am not level 33. I am 18th degree Scottish Rite. Um, So where was it? Somebody mentioned here. I don't think Maduro was a Freemason. I've never heard any evidence that he was. I've never checked, so I have no idea, but I don't think so. Um, so Bell dash CB. I mean, anything's possible, but that seems insane to me. The idea that you could be a Freemason and keep it hidden from your wife for 25 years. Like when he went to lodge meetings, did he just tell her he was going to the club or something? Like what was he doing? And also, I guess it's possible in the sense that he could have joined and then never went to meetings. That does happen. You know, he pays a yearly fee of whatever it is, probably a small amount, and just he maintains his membership without being active in the lodge. That actually is possible. Well, thank you, Rakshini. Most people on here are always telling me how ugly I look, so I appreciate that very much. Um, I hope that you will hit the like button and subscribe button in honor of my eye color. I'm almost at 3,250 subs, so if you want to help a brother out, please do so. Then, I mean, that's pretty crazy that he kept it from his wife for 20. I have no idea how he did that. I mean, most guys can't even hide when they cheat on their diet, you know, and have a donut. So, I guess, I mean, I do have a level of respect for that, even though I think it's probably a very bad idea. I don't want anybody to see that and get any ideas. If you think you can join Freemasonry and just hide it from your wife, you're going to be very disappointed when you find out that's not the case. And Freemasons shouldn't encourage that either. If you're joining Freemasonry, one thing we want to know is how does your wife feel about this situation? And is she supportive, not supportive? Um, so I talk about Freemasonry here. I've been a Freemason for almost 20 years, and I talk about, you know, my perspectives on it. I try to turn my profession or try to turn my passion for Freemasonry into profession by creating content. I don't think it's that big. It's just a regular water bottle. It's just perspective. It's just perspective. And that's great when that happens. That does happen, I would say, more frequently than people realize, which is that, you know, the father-in-law encourages the son-in-law to join, or the father or the wife encourages the husband to join because her father was a Freemason. So that I was just at a lodge recently where they had that. So yeah, it's really cool. Fishmaster Freemason is a community or civic organization or group which evolved from stonemason guilds approximately 300 years ago. In some ways, you can think about it as a very formalized guys' night all. Well, first of all, Spoon, you may not know the silly handshake. There may not be a silly handshake. I never talk about the modes of recognition within this channel, which is how Masons recognize one another. So I will neither confirm nor deny there's a handshake. But keep in mind, just because you think you know something about Freemasonry, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the case. Very often, what you see is people, you know, they'll search online for the secrets, quote unquote. They'll think that they came across them only to find out that they did not, or that there were no secrets. The secrets they thought were real were not. That happens very, very often. So you need to keep that in mind. A fraternal order that works to improve community. That's a good way to put it as well, people. Although keep in mind, I'm always really careful to try to remind people that Freemasonry is not exclusively fraternal. It depends on the jurisdiction and the organization. So you know, in United Kingdom, in England, you have the United Grand Lodge of England, and they are connected with the Order of Women Freemasons. You also have the Order of Women Freemasons here in Ontario. You have co-masonry, which is not recognized in, you know, many places. You also have Eastern Star, and then you have groups for young women. So you need to keep that in mind as well. Um, So I heard about the Metropolitan operation. I did not know it was called Operation Tiberius. I think they would be disappointed. Roach, I am a Freemason. Please hit like and subscribe. I'd greatly, greatly appreciate it. Um, and thank you for being here. Like I said, I've seen some absolutely incredible growth. KY Pitbull, you can expect a message from me tonight, or actually, once I'm done this stream, I'm just going to send you the links that sounded ominous to what I wrote about Kentucky, some of the things I've done. If you could leave, follow me there, subscribe, comment, like all that jazz on those channels, I'd very much appreciate it. Freemasonry is not a profession. I am, however, trying to change that a little bit by turning my passion for Freemasonry into a profession by starting this YouTube channel and trying to create content. I monetize so people can do super chats, can do likes, can do memberships, Patreon, all that good jazz, and helps out big time. Hello, Big C431. I appreciate you calling me a cowboy. Cowboys are cool. I do not know what that means, Chai. Like, does it mean they give you pins and coins and stuff with it? I do not know what this. I mean, you get like jewels as part of, but that's not automatically. That's if you're a past master. You've been a Mason for a long time. So you need to be careful about that. But they could, I mean, some lodges may, especially if they have the capacity or the money or the expertise, it's very possible they may do things like that. They may do things like everybody gets a special pin, a special coin, a special type of jewelry of some sort. So, yeah, whether I was Jewish or not, dark would not make a difference. What I am is a Freemason. And whether I'm Jewish or not should be irrelevant to that. I do hope once again everybody is doing well. All right, Big C, I'm gonna put you back on timeout for a second. I think I have to put Dark 1488 on as well. So you can, in fact, Roach, despite what people think, be both a Catholic and a Mason. So the Catholic Church came out with a rule. To my understanding, the most recent ruling is if you are a Freemason and you're a Catholic, you cannot take communion, or you're not supposed to take communion. Now, just because something is written as a rule, it's not always enforced. I've known many Catholic Freemasons who take communion, who go to church, whether it be because they didn't tell their priest or their father, or they choose to look the other way. I don't know, but that's not like my issue or our issue, right? We within Freemasonry have no issue with Catholic faith. It's wonderful. As I've said before, I've always said you can think of Freemasons as vegetarians, in that we don't want no beef with nobody. So keep that in mind. I hope everybody, though, is doing very, very well, and I hope everybody is having an excellent, excellent day. I was going to talk about a couple things I noticed, but I think I may just keep chatting in general for now. I was going to talk a little about the economy. Because again, I've said this a million times, you cannot separate the success of you cannot separate the condition of a Masonic lodge from the condition of the country or city in which it's located. That includes the economic, social, political situation. Freemasonry is not political, but that's not to say that politics or the politics of a situation does not affect Freemasonry. Same thing with economics. Freemasonry is not economic. It's not a business, but if a town has a, let's say, a challenging economic time frame or challenging economic situation, the lodge may be affected by that. If, for example, the major business within your, like, let's say your town is propped up by a single economy, a mine, a factory. If the factory moves, um, and people start to move out of the town to find new jobs, the Masonic Lodge is going to start to suffer and it's going to start to be affected by that. So you need to pay attention to macro and microeconomic conditions. One of the biggest issues, I think, facing Freemasonry since the 1970s has been what's called the Great Decoupling, which is when you had wage growth stagnating, but worker productivity growing. What that meant is basically people had to work longer and longer hours and felt less financially secure, which means less time for Freemasonry or less of an interest in Freemasonry. It depends. I mean, some old towns really do a great job of maintaining their Masonic buildings, some not so much. There really isn't any one single rule on this stuff, right? That's the thing you need to keep in mind, Chai. There is no single rule on, like, I've been to small towns that have these really beautiful, ornate Masonic buildings. I've been to big cities where the lodge meets, above a saloon or a bar. It really depends on a lot of factors. But but yeah, I think every Masonic building has its own charms. I mean, I've been in meetings in almost every type of Masonic building you could imagine, from converted farmhouses to converted residential homes in the suburbs to churches that were repurposed, like abandoned churches that were bought and turned into Masonic buildings, to I don't even know, to purpose-built buildings, to renovated buildings. I mean, to caves, to fields, outdoor meetings. Like every Masonic meeting place really does have its own charms and its own beauty. And I think we have a responsibility to enjoy them all and try to find the beauty in them. Um, there's plenty I've not visited. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so proud of Barnes. Yes, in Barnes, in old movie theaters, actually, theaters in the 1920s, and jail that was converted. It's really interesting. It's really fascinating. That's one of the reasons why I started two Instagram channels, actually. Masonic Buildings 1 and Masonic Building Interiors 1, where I take pictures and document both the outside, like the facade, and the lodge rooms of all the different Masonic buildings I visited around the world. So check that one out. Kyle, don't worry, you're going to get a insane number of links sent your way soon. And please follow on any or all of them if you can. Um, Icy Stoner, I'm in a Masonic building. I'm in a Masonic. I think you might have been Masonic. Well, that's cool. I hope you're enjoying being inside the Masonic building. I also hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. And thank you for being here. What I am is a YouTuber, Robin, so hit that like and subscribe button. Um, I think we need to be celebrating. Welcome back. I think we need to be celebrating our Masonic built heritage more. Whether they, so many places around the world, the Masonic Lodge it's more than simply a meeting place for Masons. It is a place of it is a place that adds so much to the architectural and historical character of the town, community, city in which it's located. Whether that be massive structures like Detroit, let's say medium structures like Windsor, or smaller scale structures like in throughout Texas, like Webb Masonic Lodge. Like they all add so much to the town and community. And for many years, they would act as the local kind of meeting place for the town and for the community, which is really, really cool. One of my favorite examples of that is there's this song, Copperhead Road, where the singer mentions at one point, he says his dad or his granddad, I think it was, purchased a car at an auction at the Masons Lodge. Because for many small towns, they would, police would do police auctions or police events or blood drives or vaccine clinics at the Masonic building, at the Masonic Lodge. So it's a really cool point. And people need to keep that in mind. So we should be celebrating the value of our Masonic buildings. Never been to Reykjavik. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, but never been to Reykjavik. I'd love to go. That's awesome, KY and Kentucky, and I hope that you do. But keep in mind, you don't always need a reliable car. Like, I don't drive. I don't have my license. I rely on buses, trains, planes. And in some ways, I think it might be cheaper than having, it might be cheaper, honestly, than having a car, because you don't have to deal with the insurance and the repairs and all that, especially because cars depreciate. But I mean, I know people need cars for work, family, and other reasons. I'm just saying, sometimes you don't need a car to travel. What I'd also say is, you want to keep in mind, Masonic travel is different than other types of travel in that you can be in the same, like, so in Windsor, for example, there are 7 Masonic lodges that meet in my Masonic building just on different nights of the week. So Masonic travel could mean going to Paducah, Kentucky for a barn raising. It could also mean going to lodge on a Monday night to visit Trinity Lodge on a night that's different than my usual night of the week. It's the same building, the same city, just a different night of the week and a different lodge. That is Masonic travel too, and that is just as valuable a type of Masonic travel as going halfway around the world. It's all equally valuable, right? Or for that matter, you can do some stuff virtually and online as well. There's a lot of Masons that are doing virtual education sessions. So, yeah, I mean, I travel to Chicago all the time. I've said it a million times. Chicago is the greatest city in the world. I will, I will stand on principle for that. I would not want to drive to Chicago, though, because dealing with parking is expensive as heck. It'd just be a pain in the butt. And so, yeah, like there's many reasons why in some cases traveling without a car is actually far more convenient than traveling with. If anything, Chicago, I feel like punishes you if you have a car. So. At least downtown Chicago, the Loop Chicago does, that's for sure. And the London, London, I would not, like I was in London recently. I assume you're talking about London, UK. I was there not that long ago, and my heavens, like, again, I loved it, but I could not imagine having a car in London. It was insane. The congestion was brutal. Um, I was very happy to be there. I was very happy to take the public transit system. I took the tube like a real Londoner, and it was really fun. But oof, I would um, I would not want to be a driver there. That's for sure. Even taking the public transit was like it was. There's a lot of people in London. It was packed. I remember I was going downtown, or I don't know where I was going exactly. I was going to check out the United Grand Lodge of England from the London airport, Heathrow. I took the tube. I mean, I was as packed in there as you could be. I remember one point they were having like it looked like a field trip, taking the tube, and those were like the bravest teachers I've ever seen. Not because I was concerned for my safety, I wasn't, but like how they keep track of all their kids when you've got this absolutely jam-packed like I don't know how they kept track of all their kids in that tube. I was thinking those are some impressive people. Well, again, tell Donald I say hello. I miss him. He's a really good dude. And yeah, you can also, again, you don't always need a car because sometimes you can organize carpooling trips with several of your brethren and you can all drive somewhere together. That can be the most fun. You can learn a lot about Freemasonry, in the car, driving to a new Masonic lodge or driving to a Masonic event. So, yeah. Oh, I agree, Chai. I mean, I am a huge proponent of needing better public transit infrastructure, whether it be buses, trains, light speed rail, even short haul flights going from like small municipality to small municipality. I think that's something to look into. But light speed rail, trains, buses, I think we need far better public transit infrastructure. We also need to respect the infrastructure we have currently and give it a little bit more respect, especially the people working there, getting us around. And also, we need way more walkable cities. Um, I prefer both, KY. I don't mind big cities. I also love small towns. I love to travel. And I've said this before, but one thing I think we as Freemasons need to remember is when we're traveling, we are representing Freemasonry where we are. So I always try to be, extra respectful and polite of, for example, bus drivers, transit drivers, airline staff and crew, all the people who make it possible for me to travel and travel relatively cheaply because I couldn't afford to travel and take taxis everywhere, right? I need to rely on public transit when I'm in a new town. I'm grateful for it. I try to demonstrate that gratefulness. I also think it's just good advice generally if you're traveling as a Mason, try to use the public transit, shop at the local restaurant, eat at the local restaurant, support local. Um, yeah, well, Paducah, I mean, it's tough. I find certain places in the States, like, and that's why I was so grateful to have Don and a couple other Masons give me rides because otherwise, again, I'd have had to rely on like Uber or taxis. It would have been a pain. I don't even know what the taxi situation is like in Paducah. But, I do think even in the States, one area, in my personal opinion, that you guys could work on is maybe a little bit better public transportation or even just walkable cities. Because from what I recall, there wasn't a ton of sidewalks in Paducah either. Hello, KY Pitbull. Next, yeah, hello. So I will tell him you said hello, hello. You don't have to correct yourself. Don't worry, KY. I figure, I spend so much time reading comments on YouTube. I've seen a million. I've seen a million typos. Well, yeah, I think the spreading out does make it tough for sure. And I mean, cities that are more densely either populated or densely situated or densely organized. I mean, I'm not sure what the best term is. Do have an easier time with things like public transit and walkability, but I think it's possible. And I mean, there was a time when America was very well known for its public transit. Like all the big cities, one of the big selling features was the public transportation systems, right? New York was famous for it, Chicago was famous for it. Um, it feels like it's been Detroit was famous for it. It feels like it's been recent from a historical perspective, maybe the last 30 years, maybe 20, that even Detroit, like the car capital of the world, it has the people mover. It has, honestly, in my opinion, a pretty decent transit system. We're going to be probably taking advantage of it tonight. So sometimes I think it gets, unfortunately, knocked. But as someone who loves to travel, from a Masonic perspective, public transit is vital to my ability to travel and my ability to see Freemasonry around the world. Good for you, Chai. I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, you're not a Mason if you're not a member of Masonic Lodge, but you can definitely support Masonic principles or parallel with Masonic principles. I absolutely believe that to be the case. So, yeah, no, good for you. That's one thing I always say. Freemasons need to care about our communities and support our communities. There's a million ways we can do it, but we need to be relevant, right? So, for example, a new small business opens up in your town or your city. You, as a Freemason, are looking for potential, refreshments after lodge. Let's say you're the junior warden. You should absolutely hit up the new business, see if you can use them to cater your event. It gives the new business some income, and it also demonstrates to the new business that um, you are supportive of the community and relevant to the community. I mean, I talked about this before. Um, the I was visiting a Masonic lodge in Dearborn, and which was really really cool. And I was talking to the worshipful master, and one thing he mentioned is, after um, after every meeting, he makes it a point to visit a local restaurant for refreshments because he wants the businesses and the community to not only see Freemasons, but see Freemasons supporting others and supporting the businesses that make the economy of the town run. So, Turbo, American Public. Well, I would say it's a little more complicated than that, Turbo, but there is part of that where, yeah, if you're homeless and you can find your way onto a bus, you get, let's say, however it is you come across it, begging, panhandling, you get, let's say, $2, $3, you get your bus fare. If it's cold enough, you might just use that $3 for bus fare to keep yourself warm on the bus. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not judging anybody for it, but um, the problem is that does take up space for people who are commuting to or from work. If they're bringing all their stuff with them, which they may have to for, to keep it from being stolen, they may end up taking more than one seat. And there are some real issues with how best to deal with things of that nature. I mean, I remember I was on a bus in Chicago, actually, going from the Jefferson Masonic Temple to my hotel. I always take the same bus. It's the Pace 270. If you know, you know. But there was this lady on the bus. She had a shopping cart with her, so she was taking up like the handicap space. And she had a doctor's, like a bracelet from a hospital on. And she was wearing, it looked like, not a hospital smock, but it looked like something you'd get at a hospital. Um, the wrong size for her. I remember that as well. But she kept on she kept on saying, I'm getting off on Milwaukee. And of course, if you know that bus, it basically it goes along Milwaukee. So every stop is like Milwaukee and Grant, Milwaukee and whatever. It's Milwaukee and so chewing the stop button and then saying, this isn't my stop, I'm getting off in Milwaukee. You could tell that mentally she wasn't all there. But she's slowing down the ride for everybody because she's pulling stops where she's not getting off. And Then at one point, she accuses the bus driver of kidnapping her. Um, and the bus driver has to deal with that. And then we get to the final stop, and she refuses to get off the bus. It was the whole thing. But the point is, like, yeah, there is a when the social safety net is not present for people and kind of doesn't catch them, what ends up happening is they end up finding other types of social safety nets that aren't equipped to deal with them, like public transit acting as almost a temporary shelter, and that creates problems for everybody, which is why, in my opinion, you need a stronger social safety net, both in a civic sense and a civil sense. And in the civic sense, Freemasonry can potentially be a social safety net of sorts. Well, I mean, Freemasonry is not just that Freemasonry low key looks normal. Freemasonry is normal, right? Freemasonry is as normal as it gets. Conspiracy theories come from people struggling with their lives and looking for people to blame, or looking for conspiracies to distract from their own problems. So, if, for example, you have mental health issues and or substance abuse issues and you don't want to deal with those, you go online and research conspiracy theories, and then you spend all of your time, imagining yourself as some great truth teller fighting against the Freemasons, because it's easier to do that than actually look at yourself in the mirror and fix your own life. I mean, Turbo, again, I want to be careful. I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush, but you're not wrong that there are issues. Like, I remember, again, another example from Chicago. So whenever I travel to Chicago, Turbo, I travel to Chicago and then I stay in Glenview, which is about 40 minutes north of Chicago, give or take. And I get there through usually the Milwaukee District North train, which is a metro train. The last train leaves at like 12, if I recall correctly, it leaves at like 12:30, something like that, 12:35. And it arrives at the Glenview station around like 1:20 in the morning. And then I just head to my hotel. I got into Chicago too late. My train was delayed from Detroit. It was a whole thing. So I ended up taking the blue line at like 4 in the morning to get as far, north as I could before taking an Uber. The blue line train in Chicago at 4 in the morning was an interesting experience, shall we say. Um, a lot of trash. There was one guy sitting a few seats in front of me who kept on spitting on the ground, some people doing drugs. Now, during the day, I've taken that blue line all the time and it's fine, it's clean. The staff does a great job. At night, it's a little bit of a different story. But again, it's one of those things where it's if the social safety net fails, however it fails, you're going to see those failures show up in other areas of your life. Again, which is one of the reasons why I think civic institutions are so important, like Freemasonry. Because I've known, um, and I don't know if KY Pitbull, Kentucky Pitbull would see this as well. Um, I've known at least three, I think maybe even four Masons who would have been homeless were it not for Freemasonry stepping in and helping to assist with paying their rent, paying their mortgage. That is a safety net. And not only does that help that Mason and their family stay in their home, but it helps everybody. Because if that Mason were to become homeless, were to have nowhere to go, one thing he may be one of the people on, riding the bus to stay warm with his family. He may be one of the people on the blue line at 4 in the morning, just trying to take a nap or using substances to keep himself warm. One of the reasons that people don't realize this, but if you're homeless, a lot of times you're using substances not because you necessarily wanted to, but because it allows you to get to sleep, because it numbs your body to the cold weather, whatever it might be, or numbs you from feeling whatever it is you're feeling, and the family. And so it brings to mind safety net, social safety net, why it's valuable, why it's important, why it's necessary. I'm doing well, Dream Seeker. I hope you're doing well also. CSC Sun is cycle. So I don't think at the time there were 23rd degree Freemasons. I don't think Scottish Rite had developed the degrees yet. George Washington was a Freemason. Um, so please hit like, please hit subscribe. To my knowledge, though, he was not. He was a third degree Freemason, which is the highest degree in Freemasonry, anyways. I mean, I've taken the. I have no issue. Again, yes, there's been some issues, fine, but I have nothing but respect for all the CTA workers, the Metro workers who help make it possible to travel. Again, they allow me to travel, and I should be respectful of that. Sometimes there are delays, Jason. Sometimes there are issues, but again, I couldn't run those trains. I couldn't make them work. I couldn't fix them or pilot them or schedule them. You just think about the logistical skill it takes to be able to actually understand how these things work and operate. It's pretty incredible. Well, thank you, Gui. I appreciate that very much. I appreciate all of the support very much. Well, Kentucky, I mean, what I would say is it's up to you, but you shouldn't be embarrassed to take money from one's lodge. It's benevolence. It's there for a reason. My suspicion is if somebody else needed the help, you would, encourage them to go to lodge. You shouldn't take it willy-nilly, obviously, but if it's necessary and needed, then you should take it. I mean, I make no bones about when I was younger, I got benevolence from my Masonic lodge. They actually purchased a tuxedo for me because I was going to the officer chairs. And also, there have been times when I didn't know, not recently, Dad, relax, but there's been times when I didn't know if I'd have enough money to eat, especially when I'm younger going through school. I could go to the Masonic Lodge for a meeting and know that there's a meal there. I know that there's a good meal there as well, right? Um, it's there for a reason. And if you do feel bad then for taking benevolence, then once you get back on your feet, you just pay it back. You treat it like a loan. Um, well, you don't take it or borrow it. I mean, I guess you take it in a sense. It's called benevolence, right? So it's given to you. Now, not every lodge can do it. Um, right? Some lodges, if they don't have the funds, then it's just they don't have the funds. But there are some lodges, if they have sufficient money and if a brother needs help, he can apply for benevolence. Usually, and I'm going to speak from my experience, but it is pretty common to my knowledge. The request is kept confidential. So let's say I needed money. I would go to the Lodge Benevolence Fund chairperson, or if they don't have one, usually the treasurer, and just explain I'm in a tight spot. I need some money. This is, how much I need. The chairperson would go to the lodge and say, we have a request from a brother. It remains anonymous, but he needs a certain amount of money, and the lodge will vote on it to give it to him. And then it's, not given to him as a loan. It's a gift. He can choose to pay it back if he wants, but it's not expected. Um, Chai, I don't know what GUI is saying. I didn't see it. Well, yes, that's kind of racist, GUI. Let's put you in a timeout for a second. Because you do not have to keep your distance from Asian people. So I don't know why you would say that. So let's give him a bit of a timeout for a couple minutes and see if he calms down a little bit. Um, I'm in a tight spot. Well, I hope you get some help, John. I hope you find assistance. Being in a tight spot is unfortunate. Good. Kentucky Pitbull. I'm glad that your brothers, I mean, look, and we talk about Freemasonry and charity. The thing you need to remember is there's a lot of different ways to be charitable within Freemasonry, right? You can be charitable with your finances, obviously. But you can be charitable with your time, you can be charitable with your understanding, you can be charitable with forgiveness, you can be charitable with gratitude, you can be charitable with benefit of the doubt, right? And you can be charitable again with just emotional support, being there for a brother, rallying around the brother when it's necessary. Yeah, you can leave Freemasonry, Jason. Many people do. Sometimes they leave Freemasonry. They'll actually do what's called demit and say they are, no longer wish to be part of the lodge for whatever reason. Or you can choose to, some people just stop paying their dues and just stop contacting the lodge, in which case they find themselves suspended. It's a good way to look at it, KY, and I appreciate that very much. It's a good way to view it. Well, I don't know what glazing is, but it sounds dirty, so I don't know what that is, though. Do not know what that refers to. But it sounds like something probably not good. Well, I mean, in some cases, it's both. Yeah, some Masons have family members who are Freemasons. Um, and some, it's just, you're there because they're family because they're there for you. I do think, Freemasonry is more than simply a obligation, right? Some people have this idea of like, as soon as you take your obligation, you're automatically a brother. You're automatically a Mason. Being a brother is about more than simply the obligation. It's about the work you put in, into the craft and into the brotherhood. User, I mean, in my experience, no. I mean, I know gay Freemasons. I say I probably know 4 or 5, something like that, gay Freemasons. I'm trying to think. I mean, I've met a few that I can think of. I think about 4, maybe 5. I mean, high percentage, no. My suspicion is the percentage would be equivalent to whatever it is within the community. So I remember once hearing a stat, I don't know if it's true or not, that said 10% of the population are gay. So I suppose it'd be 10% within Freemasonry as well, would be my guess. Um, can you utter the name Jesus Christ? Lighthouse Basin. I mean, I can say Jesus Christ. I'm not a Christian myself personally, but I have great respect for the Christian faith, as I do for everybody's faith. Well, Freemasonry, everybody worships their own supreme being, however they understand it. We have Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Sikh, Muslim Freemasons, and they're all welcome. Goodbye, Dad. As always, I love you, and thank you for being here. I don't know. Oh, I am Christian. Okay, yeah, KY is Christian. There you go. Like I said, I believe in a supreme being, but I'm not of any particular religious faith per se. So Freemasonry is not Talmudic. It does not serve Satan. And you do not have to commit to serving Satan to be a Freemason. Also, you're not going to be offered to join. That's not how it works. Masons may invite you to like a lodge event. They may invite you to like a lodge open house or something, which is great, but that's not the same thing as being like offered. It sounds to me like you were offered membership in a clandestine lodge, which is basically the best way to think about it is like a fake Masonic lodge or a pretend Masonic lodge, which there are a lot of them out there. Some of them will claim to be satanic. So yes, Kieran Thakur, again, Freemasonry is not satanic. John, you keep bringing this up. I don't know what this means, but I'm going to just put you in a little bit of a timeout. When people keep asking the same questions enough, I'm going to keep on doing the timeout thing. Sam Adams? I think he might have been a Freemason, actually. The brewer, like the guy who did the beer. I don't know for sure, but I think he might have been a Freemason. So I forget for sure. No, it's not hard to join. It can take some time, but it's not hard to join. Jason, you need to be at least an adult. So in most American states, it's over 18. Actually, I don't know what it is in Kentucky, but in Michigan, it's over 18. Whereas in most places in Canada, you need to be at least over the age of 21. You need to believe in a supreme being. Beyond that, you then need to just take the next step of approaching the lodge and expressing interest. And then you go from there. You need to get sponsors and all that, but that takes a bit of time. At the start, you know, well begun is half done. If you want to be a Mason, you have to take the first step, literally and figuratively, by approaching the lodge. So 18. Okay, I think in most jurisdictions it's 18 plus, but in many it's also over 21. There might be some where it's over 19 as well. No, user, that's very silly. No, you do not. Again, conspiracy theory nonsense. Really? Okay, yeah, I knew Lewis. I knew Clark from Lewis and Clark was a Freemason. I did not know he founded your town. That's really cool. Hello, Steel Balls. Hit that like and subscribe button, by the way. 18. Okay, I think most places in the States it's 18, to be honest. I think most places in the States it's 18. Well, conspiracy theories, they honestly they come from finding a convenient target because within Freemasonry there exists, private elements. And because they had so many members once upon a time, it was easy for kind of demagogues and monsters and just bad people to use them as, to create conspiracy, the purpose of which being to, like, create an enemy that you can then fight. Because what a dictator, a demagogue, what these people need is they need to create enemies that they can unite people against. So they can say, I found the true enemy, it's such and such. And if you just follow my lead, um, we will fight them together. So yeah, and it also came from Leo Taxil. That was a big hoax. But again, it's because there were so many members in Freemasonry at the time that it was one of those situations where I'm trying to think of the word where, like, if you want to create conspiracy theories just for fun, just for poops and giggles, just to get people riled up, you're not going to go after, your Aunt Millie's knitting group that has five whole people in the stream or five whole people in the club, excuse me. You're going to go after something that has a significant number of members because it's more interesting. People want to hear about that stuff more. So. Well, it goes up and down, JS. I mean, in the same way, a lot of conspiracies don't go away. They just change kind of a little bit, right? Like anti-government conspiracy has been around since the 1800s. Anti-vaccination has been around for a while. All sorts of conspiracy theories come and go. That's true. People do like to attack what they don't understand as well. That's a very good point as well from Kentucky Pitbull. Oh, today is National Bean Day. Chicago has the best you can find. They don't mean the Chicago bean, they mean green, beans, but nonetheless. I don't know anything about Bohemian Grove. I didn't Alex Jones, who I'm not a fan of, did something about them. I forget what it is, but isn't it just some place where a bunch of rich dudes go and worship some owl or something? I did watch Mr. Bean. Me and my dad used to watch it together. I loved it. So it's a great show. I never really got super into comedies, so over time I kind of became less interested in it. But um, it's not Chai. Bohemian Grove is not a Masonic lodge. Again, despite what some of the peoples may say. But I think we're going to be ending this stream soon. It's been a couple hours. It's been really fun. I might be traveling. It might be a last minute thing, so I may not have a 1 a.m. stream, but I will be back at some point with, the one with streams. I'll be letting you guys know as I go. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope everybody's doing well. Vlogging is tough because there's different rules you have to follow, but I will see what I can do. But definitely that's why, Jason, it's so important to follow me on social media. Because by following me on social media, you can see all my travels. I'd love to go back to Paducah. Kentucky Pitbull, like I said, expect a message from me shortly with all of my stuff. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. Have an excellent, excellent night, day, whatever time it is for you. And I'll talk to y'all soon. All right, bye.